Okay.
Hey guys, Dr. Amy Hayek here, president and co-founder of Animal Chiropractic Education Source. I am here today with Dr. Pamela Stone. She is an amazing chiropractor, animal chiropractor, author, and expert at writing and publishing studies on animal chiropractic. She has been published many, many times in different journals and is going to share with us today her expertise on the things that animal chiropractors can do to, one, get published, and two, to educate their community, which often includes other professionals. Dr. Pamela Stone, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me here, Amy.
You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about all the things that you do.
I do. Well, I've been a chiropractor for 20 years. So I graduated from Life University in 2000, chiropractor, but certified in animal chiropractic for 5 years. So it took me a while to kind of get up the financial and time commitment to do the animal program. So my background is really animals. Also, I'm an instructor for the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association. So it's a little sidebar thing that I do, but really have been doing a lot more animals the past 5 years. And then also I'm in the managing editor for a chiropractic journal. So, and that is what, kind of what this talk is coming from. So with getting in there, doing the research, getting the research published, because to me, that's really one of the most important things is especially if you're a chiropractor, having that credibility of, you're not just getting in there and doing a Facebook testimonial of, hey, this dog was, improved, but it's really getting the research out there to build credibility amongst animal chiropractors in our community or anywhere. So
awesome. So as a managing editor, I'm sure you have a lot of the inside information about what it takes to get published.
Right.
What a study needs to be like, how rigorous it has to be, all those things.
Yeah, the studies, part of me is like, oh, they're not that hard. They're just time consuming. So the best thing is a case series where you have, 10 dogs that you've studied, or you have a bunch of someone who had talked about the barrel horse racing or something like that, or chickens, where you're studying these animals, you're taking notes on what you're doing and you're getting good results and you're writing down, whether it's the analysis or the adjustment or whatever, and just having all that documentation. So taking those series where you have them all together and putting together in a paper is great. And then there's also people who do just the case study of just the one dog that improved or the one horse that improved or something. And those are pretty good too. They're better than nothing. They're much better than, just testimonials of people, talking about how you may have helped a certain animal or something. Because you can't do, I always say you can't do double blind placebo control studies with animals. With chiropractic, you can't like fake an adjustment. You can't, pretend, am I going to give an adjustment this time or not? Like you can do that with a medication. You can give it a placebo and really truly have no idea if you're giving a placebo or a medication, but you can't do that with chiropractic. So that eliminates such a big, part of the research. So it really has to go down to either the random, the trials or case studies or case series for really to get the information out there. And so, yeah, we've got 4 different journals, but really one of them is focused more for the animals. So
that is amazing. That's awesome. So what kind of credentials do people have to be able to write these things, to be able to publish this stuff?
I mean, really, we're publishing them ideally if you're a chiropractor or a veterinarian. We don't take a lot of papers solely from people who just have a undergraduate, bachelor's degree, because we're trying to, there are chiropractic journals. So we're taking them from chiropractors. Some of the best studies that we have for, at least in the animal chiropractic, is a veterinarian and a chiropractor together. And that's what I'm going to kind of get into when I do the base camp talk of like how to prepare a talk and, working with veterinarians, if you're a chiropractor or if you're a veterinarian working with a chiropractor to get the paper written. So really the credentials is just, be someone who can get out there and perform the animal chiropractic adjustment, because it's really, I don't really want to say it's that hard. It's just, it can be time consuming, but once you get into it and you get that flow, you can really get a lot of good papers submitted and published. So.
Awesome. So that sounds like you're going to make it so that everybody can get published, or
Well, anybody can submit one. Whether it gets through peer review is a whole different story. I mean, but I'm going to talk about how to get it through peer review and how to get it a good paper. I mean, you don't want to submit a 3-page paper because, you want to have some kind of research backing it. You want to have some kind of review of literature, or, good. You don't want to just say like, oh, I adjusted this dog and, C5 and that was it. You want to really build a case and what you did and why you did it, because that's what's going to set you apart than somebody else who's just, getting out there and putting something, like I said, on Facebook or on Instagram or something like that. So, being more specific with your adjustments, being more specific with what you're writing down and your analysis, and documenting that. Hopefully chiropractors are doing that. Hopefully veterinarians are doing, writing what their analysis is and what their adjustment is. And then it's just putting it together. So, and I'm going to kind of get into like how to do it. So it's not, like I said, it's not that hard. It's just time consuming.
So
once you get it down, you can do it.
So here's kind of the hard question. Would you say that maybe it is the duty of the animal chiropractor to actually be working toward this kind of publication so that they are continually, enlightening other people?
Yes, I'm very biased on that. Yes, I think so, because there's so many chiropractors and mostly chiropractors, unfortunately, who get out there and will adjust animals without taking any kind of certification, without being, certified through A.C.E.S, anybody. And that is what gets people in trouble, whether you're a vet or a chiropractor. So by getting published, you're not going to get published unless you have some kind of certification of the class, the experience. So I always think, yes, it's a great incentive because it's going to build your credibility as a chiropractor to be like, hey, or a vet saying, hey, listen, we have papers that have published, and you can present that to other professionals in your community as to why you're doing it. You're doing it the right way, first of all, and you're doing it to the benefit of the animals, and you're not doing anything illegal in your state. You're not doing anything against, any kind of ethical board. You're doing it because it's the right way to do it. So I think it's everybody should do it because it just raises your credibility, excuse me, so much by having that published versus, I know there's chiropractors around who will adjust animals even though they don't know what they're doing and they potentially hurting them. And so I feel like this can, upgrade your level and step it up a little bit by, being out there and being published and saying you're doing it legally and you're presenting that case study to other people in your community. So hopefully they can refer to you, whether you're a veterinarian or a chiropractor.
Awesome.
So
it makes people like just smarter or I don't know.
If it makes them smarter, but I just think it gives more legitimacy to it, especially, because some people think it's crazy. Like, why would an animal get adjusted? So when you can present it in writing and show the research of animals that have had positive results, then it raises that credibility. So it doesn't make it seem as crazy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
People just don't understand it and they don't know why you would do it. Or they may be afraid to try it because they're like, I want to see some research, because there's people who are always looking for research. They want to see proof that something works, and your proof can be like, okay, just a testimonial of somebody saying, oh well, it helped my animal. But some people like a little bit more than that. So
yeah, definitely.
So
definitely. I'm trying to think of what my third question was. I don't have it right in front of me. Hang on one second.
Wait. The question that you had sent to me?
Yeah, and it was, how confident will they be in this process after hearing you talk at base camp?
Okay.
Because I know that a lot of people are not.
Yeah.
They're afraid to do it. They don't like to write. They're tired of putting together records all day anyway.
Yeah.
There are lots. They're tired at the end of the day. They don't have time.
Right. So, hopefully they'll be more confident. People will be more confident once they take the base camp class, because I'm going to kind of go through sort of like step by step on what you can do, just from writing the abstract and writing the different sections. And one of the best things you would find is to find, like, if you're a veterinarian and you're getting great results adjusting some animals for certain cases, is getting someone else who maybe not be certified in animal chiropractic, who likes to write, help you write the paper, and they can do the bulk of it. And then the two of you could be co-authors. And so that's what a lot of people will do, is say, because I don't mind writing, but I just don't have a lot of time. So sometimes I'll get students at Life University, because I'm really close to Life, to help write a paper, and they'll do all the crunch work, and we'll pay them or whatever, or, they'll do it for a class, and they'll do that. And then once they graduate, we can get it published with their name as a DC on it, or if the veterinarian I'm working with, they'll write something. So you just get somebody else to help you with it. So I think, the goal is, yes, for people to be more confident in doing it and knowing the step-by-step process and saying, okay, we're going to do this. Because part of me is like, it's really not that hard. I mean, it is, but it isn't. It's if you just follow the steps and you follow the process and you know where to go to find the literature so you can look at it and review it. And then the peer review process really just kind of can give tidbits as to, yes, this is good, or, you're on the right track, or, this has to be changed, or this has to be added. And there's people out there who like to write. You just got to kind of find that person, if you can find the writers, and then they can be a co-author. So that's where it's a little bit easier, is if you can get somebody else. If you're the one doing all the dirty work and doing all the adjustments, but you can find someone else who likes to write, ideally a veterinarian or a chiropractor, and have them be the co-author, that's really that's the ideal situation, unless someone's really great at writing themselves. But most people don't want to write
Some
stuff.
people don't want to write it down.
Right.
Kind
Or
of,
they don't have time.
it almost sounds like the buddy system for working out or something, or weight loss.
Right. I mean, it can be like some of the papers we've published is, a veterinarian, getting some great results, and then just finding somebody who's a writer who can get in there. I mean, ideally you want that person to be a chiropractor or a veterinarian, just to have the credentials, like, oh, here's a paper that's written by 2 vets. But, if it's somebody who just has a master's, it could be done, but it's ideally, the credibility is a little bit better if you have somebody who has, a DC or a DVM after their name. So.
Well, good. That's good to know. So sounds like we're going to get a lot of really good details.
Right.
We're going to
Right.
move the whole profession forward.
Right. I mean, that's the goal, is to give you the why should it be done, even though I've kind of said some of it now, but like, why do we think it's important for the whole animal chiropractic profession? Because, part of it is like, you want to set yourself apart and give yourself the credibility, versus somebody getting in trouble for doing it who doesn't know what they're doing, or not referring, or not following the process. And then kind of the step-by-step way how to do it. I mean, without writing the paper for the person, but this is it, and this is what we're looking for. And this is where the websites you would go to find other articles that you can look at. And kind of once that's done, you can use almost that for a lot of other papers. So it's not like you're reinventing the wheel every single time.
Oh, wow.
Once you have that review of the literature done, that's not going to change. If anything, you're going to add to it with the new papers that you're publishing. So, and there's not a lot out there. Like, there's not a lot of animal chiropractic research out there. So that's why we're trying to get more people to do it, because I feel like there is a need. It's just getting people to actually take the plunge and do it.
So if you had like one secret that you wanted to share with people about putting that paper together, or coming up with a paper idea, what would be that one secret that you would give them?
To put the secret to put the paper together, or to have a good paper?
Even just to have a good idea for a paper.
I would say the best secret, if it's a secret, is to have ideally documentation, like what it is you did. And ideally, if it's great if there's an MRI or x-rays to support it, just to build up the key. If you're like, oh, I just did this dog and that was it, that's not going to be a good case. The secret is to have decent documentation. It doesn't have to be crazy detailed, but it was just like, okay, we saw him X amount of times, and this is what we found, and and this is how we did it. So, and we had this MRI or X-ray or whatever it is. So
it sounds like just keeping good. Sounds like it's just keeping good clinic records.
Right. It really is, which shouldn't be any different from what you're doing any day, anyhow.
We hope so.
Decent records. I mean, we've published some papers. I mean, some papers we've published, it's like the details are so specific, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And then there's some that are like, okay, I just did C5, and then there's others that are like, my line of drive was here, and and it's like, so the basics is good.
Okay, good.
So I don't want to scare people away. You don't just say I just did the animal, but you don't know where, because that's what people like is the wheres.
The wheres and the how.
The where meaning the segments, like what did you do, or what did you find,
or maybe what did you do differently than yeah. And
if you did, like, did you give exercises or therapies or anything like that, or did somebody give nutritional recommendations or homeopathic recommendation or anything like that for the animals? Whatever it may be. So
awesome.
ideally some decent notes, but hopefully people are taking fairly decent notes to begin with, but maybe not. I don't know.
Who knows?
Right.
So sounds like you've been pretty busy these days,
Yeah.
teaching and running all over the place.
Yeah, I would say the animals aren't really afraid of COVID right now, which is a good thing. So that's staying pretty busy with people, with animals, with ICPA stuff. There's always a lot going on, but that's good.
That's
Keeps me
good.
young, keeps me on my toes.
And I think it's good too to know that, you know, as animal chiropractors, I don't know anybody who's not been busy
Right.
during this time.
Right. And
So
it like that has in a sense boomed for me recently, which is good. I mean, it's people are, either they're spending more time with their animals or they're more aware of it or what it is, but animals don't seem to be, at least in my neck of the woods, affected by any of this stuff, which is good.
yeah,
But, part of me is like, okay, this is our opportunity to really grow and expand animal chiropractic. And by doing it, I would say legally, because again, we probably all know people who were doing it who don't know what they're doing because they never took, your program or anything. And
a program, yeah.
right, or a program, and they're messing things up and potentially making it worse for everybody else. So when you can do it the right way and then say, hey, I'm published, that I think that really can go a long way. I mean, I've had animal papers published, and I send them to the local veterinarians, and because I'm working with another veterinarian and doing it, and that just, it's great. And right now it's a great time to do it. So, but yeah,
Cool.
busy,
And,
busy, busy.
yeah, and so what would you say animal chiropractic has done for just your life in general? Because clearly it took you a little while to get into doing animal chiropractic, and now the last 5 years.
Um, I started out as a pre-vet major in undergrad because I really wanted to be a vet. But, when you're 18 in college, had too much fun. So I ended up taking a different route and went into the business world for a few years before I became a chiropractor. And that's really, I just focused on chiropractic. And I had so much respect for animals that even when I graduated, I brought my pets to an animal chiropractor. So like, I'm not going to do it myself. I don't want to do it when I don't know what I'm doing. And I hated it when patients would come into me as a patient and they'd be like, oh, I'm cracking my neck, or somebody, lifted me up and cracked my back. And I'm like, you don't know what you're doing. And that made me think, well, why would I ever want to do that to an animal without, without knowing what I was doing? And so then I became a mom, and just that, I don't want to say that got in the way, but that just turned my life a little bit differently. And so when my son got old enough and things changed, I was like, all right, now I have the money, I have the time to do the animal program, that I finally did it. Like, I think I wanted to do it all along, but just emotionally, mentally, being a parent, everything it was too much in the way. So, but I wish I could do it. I mean, ideally I'm trying to find an associate or someone to work with me so I can do animals more and people less. And ICPA, like if I could do animals and ICPA stuff, that would be great.
Awesome. Well, and why is that? Do you know?
Just because I love teaching for the ICPA, and I love taking care of animals, and I'd love to do people a couple days a week, but not, as many shifts as I'm doing right now. So I'm just kind of doing all of it right now, which is a little bit crazy, but I love it. The animals, I've always loved animals. Like I said, I wanted to be a vet when I was in high school, and really in high school, and even in undergrad, but just things took a little bit different journey. So I'm kind of like, that's how I'm getting back there now without it. And they're so much fun, and they get so much, they really get such great results. And I love it. I could, yeah, I love taking care of animals. It's so much fun.
They're rewarding. They
It
definitely
is
are.
really rewarding, and they get such good results. I always tell people, there's the emotional subluxations and the chemical and the physical subluxations that humans have, but dogs don't really have so much of that emotional stress, or horses, they do, but not as much as people. And so, and they can't, it's harder to analyze what's going on with them because they can't tell you, but at the same time, they can tell you if you're looking for, if you can communicate with them and stuff. So they respond so much better because they don't have that bias of like, oh, chiropractors are crazy, this is not going to work. Whereas people come into our office and they're like, they don't really come into my office that way, but sometimes they have such a bias that chiropractic isn't going to work, but animals don't have that bias. They're just innately, chiropractic works because it's supposed to work, and they don't have that fear of it not working. So
Mhm.
And that's what's really cool is when you can see them change. So
That's great.
that's what I love about it. So
Oh,
love to do
that's
more if I could, but I just don't have the time. Oh, then you throw in the journal stuff and the editing, that's kind of thrown in there every now and then.
going to say that takes a little time too.
That takes
So, speaking of journals, tell us a little bit about the journals. We know that your husband is in charge of those, and
Yep.
how could somebody read some of those or find out about some of those before base camp?
So the website is vertebralsubluxationresearch.com because it's a website that's really built on vertebral subluxation. So it's not a manipulation or physical therapy journal. It's really based on subluxation. So it's vertebralsubluxationresearch.com. And within that website, there's 4 different journals. So one is like a pediatric prenatal journal, so for the little kids and the pregnant women. And then there's a journal for someone who's doing upper cervical chiropractic care. And then there's a journal for philosophy. And then there's the AVSR, which is Annals of Vertebral Subluxation Research. So that's everything else. And that's really the one for the animals because they're not kids or pregnant women. And within that journal, so if you go to their website, and up in the right hand corner, there's a search box and you can type in canine chiropractic or equine chiropractic or whatever it is, and find some of the journals that have already been published. There's not a tremendous amount. We really want to try to get more, but there's some out there. So supporting the journal, especially because it is subluxation based, is really important to us and really important to what as chiropractors we're doing. As animal chiropractors, we're not getting in there and manipulating. We're like to think that we're really very specifically correcting subluxation and improving the quality of life and improving the nervous system function for, whether it's a human or an animal. So that's where people should go. And there's even sections in there that they can learn how to do they can pay to learn how to write a case study, or they can take base camp class.
Which is way more beneficial because there's tons of
Someone's
bonuses out there.
right.
And so
someone's communicating and talking to you versus just, reading something. So
exactly. So for those who want to join us at base camp, they can find us at animalchiropracticeducation.com. If you hover over the courses, you'll get the drop down and find base camp there, and you can sign up. And once you sign up, you actually will get some sample copies of some of the vertebral subluxation journals so that you can see what it takes to be published and what great quality of articles and things that are going into those journals, the great research that's going on.
I will add that we were hoping to add just an animal chiropractic research journal in the journal world. In order to have a journal, you have to have at least 4 issues. So 1 paper per quarter, essentially, if you're going to have a quarterly journal. So part of me is like, God, we only need 4 papers published a year on animal chiropractic to have an animal chiropractic journal. Like that shouldn't be so difficult, yet we haven't been able to get a lot of people to do it. So hopefully we can teach them how to overcome that fear, because it would be really cool to have an animal chiropractic journal for people to put in their reception area, even if it's just a few things. So we did a little sample one, but we want a full-fledged, because there's so many great stories out there. We just got to get it in writing.
We can't wait.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to hear you talk. It's
All
base camp November 13th through 15th.
Yeah.
If you need the CE, or even if you just want to come, register online. And there are 3 levels that you can choose. You can come live, you can come virtually, and you can come virtually with all the bonuses. And we will be ready to see Dr. Stone speak and explain a lot more of the nitty-gritty details about getting published and making that a real reality of an animal chiropractic journal. Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity.